Alex, welcome to our monthly review of economy during war times. Basically, that's the economy of war. It came all together in my head. It's our joint project of the Center of Economic Strategy and German economic team. I'm Gleb Wyszlinski. I'm the executive manager of Center of Economic Strategy. I will be moderating this event. Several technical details. You can leave your questions to speakers in the Q&A section. That's where you would be able to reply. And those who don't get their replies, that could be interesting. I'm going to put it also as myself as a moderator, we believe. The first part will be standard when my colleagues will present the main changes in economy for February 2024. In this review, there will be a special topic. For the first time after the 2 full years of full-scale invasion started by Russia against Ukraine, we are discussing the issue of foreign trade. But before, we talked about experts, limitations, barriers that Russia has created to Ukraine in the export of our agricultural products in the first place. And this time we will talk about with the foreign economic activity. We will be talking about experts and about experts. Economical Truth, Ekonomiczna Prawda is the partner of our event. And a short introduction from our partner, from Mr. Gary Palushkin. Gary, the floor is yours. Good afternoon from Berlin. My name is Harry Palushkin. I'm the coordinator in Ukraine of the German economic team, and this project is financed by the Federal Ministry of Climate Protection, and we are consulting Ukraine for the issues of climate policy since more than 15 years. Together with CES, since the beginning of the war, we are organizing this joint webinar to give the possibility to discuss the status of economy, which is a regular part of this event, and a very specific topic. Today, our topic is the development of exports. Russia has blocked important export routes, but Ukraine and its partners could set up new corridors via the Black Sea. It's very interesting to know the issues related to insurance and insurance development. Ukraine can now export almost as much grain as you could before the war. I'm very much thankful that CES has brought this to our today's discussion, and I look forward to the results. Many thanks. Gary, many thanks. It's for the first time that Gary is speaking Ukrainian. I was speaking to him in English as usual. So you see the influence of war on our partners is absolutely positive in its dynamics. We see the approximation to Ukraine and to Ukrainian culture and our reality. Many thanks, Harry. Let me pass the floor to my colleagues. As usually in the recent months, Maxim Simelyuk starts, our economist, who will make the overall sectoral overview. Go ahead, Max. Thank you, Gleb. Thanks, Gary. Welcome, colleagues who have joined our today's event. Allow me to share the screen. And we'll start with our traditional presentation of the overview of the economy throughout the war. apologize, I have some technical issues. I'm not sure whether my screen is transmitted and demonstrated as it should be. Moment. Let Max conquer Zoom first. Now it's good. Now it's good. Now it's fine. Apologies for this. So every month we are making review the main macroeconomic trends in the Ukrainian economy, and this time we will start from the business expectations. In February, they actually improved based on the results of the research, which is done by NBU every month. In February, all sectors except for trade reported some negative expectations. Business still is pessimistic in terms of general overview. The main problems remain the same. These are the war-related issues. That's the not a very clear situation with the external assistance, some logistical issues, especially at the western border. Also weak investment demand and a significant deficit of a qualified workforce. In February and in general, in March, in the beginning of 2024, we started again exports of electric energy. We are finalizing the heating season quite successfully this time. This winter, we did not have any comprehensive blackouts. We have a stable power grid, and the biggest exports of electric energy. This is due to the effort of our energy workers, preparation of the energy objects to winter. Of course, warm weather has made its own contribution. On the other hand, the Russians blow over critical infrastructure and energy infrastructure were quite localized, not as much as they did last winter. Irrespective of the fact that in February we somewhat decreased the steel production, the average daily steel productions are actually quite sustainable. They are the biggest over the last half a year. And in general, the situation in the metallurgical market remains stable. The key indicators, the key factors that influence metallurgy is the logistical issues and the demand in the external markets related to the prices to the main products. In February also, we have record exports of oilseeds and grains, thanks to the Ukrainian Black Sea corridor that really reached good volumes of export capacity. And in February 2024, the sea exports of grains was the biggest, and actually it has reached the pre-war levels. Also, we see that the blockade of the Polish border is not a significant it's not significantly hindering this export. Yes, it is a big problem for other sectors of the economy, but not here. Also, finalizing my part, IT exports is unfortunately at the lowest level since 2021. In January 2024, this was $508 million. Also, the share of IT exports in national export of services has reached its lowest level since the beginning of the full-scale invasion, amounting to 37.5% in January 2024. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Max. The next part is the situation in the monetary. Maria, please, the floor is yours. Do you see my screen? Let us come to the monetary policy. there was a decision to decrease further to 14.5%. The main reasons for this is the further decrease of inflation, also quite a stable FX market and positive outlook for external aid. In general, NBU has continued this cycle of softening the monetary policy, taking into account stability of exchange rate. The interest rate of overnight CDs will continue to equal the key policy rate, and the yield of one-year hryvnia war bonds, as well as others, remains at the same level. In inflation, in February, it came down to 4.3 year to year. There were more proposals of food products. Also, this is the effect, is the reorientation of some producers to the internal market, and inflation continues to decline in February. And because we also keep the prices for utilities at a stable level, this also has helped not to increase the inflation. What concerns the international reserves, we have received some assistance, but it was not sufficient in order to cover all our needs in terms of foreign currency interventions. And as a consequence, the reserves continue to become lower. They are at 37.1 billion. I mean, it's quite enough because that is absolutely sufficient for 3 months. The demand for foreign exchange currency decreased due to controlled budget spending, stable exports with smooth sea routes, resumed electricity exports that was mentioned by my colleague, and improved household exchange rate expectations amidst reduced uncertainties about financial aid from abroad. What concerns the FX rate, the official rate on average has not changed versus January. The difference between the cash market rate and the official rate did not go above 1.4%, and in the end of February, the spread shrink to less than 1%. Thanks to the measures of the National Bank, the profitability of its instruments is quite high. It covers the future level of inflation, and the demand is quite high for hryvnia assets. If we talk about deposits, after the seasonal decrease, which we can see in January, the situation has already changed in February. We have seen once again growth. New hryvnia deposits continue to be dominated by deposits with maturities of 3 to 6 months. If we talk about loan portfolio, about lending, the net hryvnia corporate loan portfolio has increased over the last 2 quarters. We also can see that there was some growth exactly for hryvnia consumer lending. And if we talk and continue the topic of small and medium-sized business, we have seen the biggest growth. Last quarter, in fourth quarter, this growth was almost plus 7% compared to previous quarter, and in the year to year, this was almost 13%. But again, as usually, the hryvnia loans, they continue to be issued using 579 programs. The decrease of the key rate also helps to make lending cheaper. So we can see that the rates go down for businesses and for households. For natural persons, they remain quite high compared to loans to corporate companies because there is a huge share of unsecured loans. And in the end of my part, I would like to talk about government bonds. Since the beginning of this year, Ukraine's government has borrowed nearly 74 billion hryvnia through auctions for the sale of domestic government debt securities. And if we talk about the beginning of the full-scale invasion, this is almost 900 billion. On the left, you can see domestic bonds by outstanding nominal value. On the right, it's 2024. We can see a significant growth in the share of NBU. That's quite clear because in 2022, National Bank was more wondering about the state budget. In 2023, it was a possibility to make the demand for the internal market. We see some growth, but of course we would want to have it even bigger among local communities, natural persons and companies, and of course banks. But we want this amount to be significantly more because banks definitely have the money. That's all from my side. Let me pass the floor to my colleagues. Yes, Maria, thank you. Colleagues, that's Yurii Gaidai, our senior economist, who will talk about the situation with the budget. Yurii, please, the floor is yours. Many thanks, Gleb. Many good afternoon to everybody. Let me talk about the fiscal sector. In February, Ukraine received only $800 million of foreign financing. This is slightly more than 500 million from Japan in terms of grants and loans, and almost 300 million grant from Norway and a small loan from Spain. So we have, for the second month in a row, we have the situation where our external revenues are significantly lower than what the needs are for financing state budget. So really we understand that more is needed to cover the state budget financial needs and serving of the debt. In February, we saw again the growth to the average war level expenditures of the budget. So the state deficit amounted to almost 3 billion and the debt repayment needs reached 1.3 billion in February. We are all expecting that the foreign financing will increase in March and will allow to finance all the obligations of the government in a more relaxed manner. If we look about tax revenues, in February they were 117 billion hryvnia. There was a significant drop of revenues from consumption. This is especially the internal VAT, domestic VAT. One of the reasons could be that in January we have had less state expenditures. We have also tracked the dependency when significant state expenditures made it much bigger revenues in tax in January. But thanks to profit tax, 34.7 billion hryvnia came as CPT revenues, of which 26 billion, this was the bank profit tax with the 50% level. Also, we have seen the historically high excise revenues, which amounted to 12.6 billion hryvnia. And the last data related to state expenditures for January, we can see this significant drop, which I already mentioned. In January, the expenditures were 158 billion. In February, they are more or less coming up to the average level. Defense spending down from 313 billion hryvnia to 65 billion hryvnia. Other functions decreased by 2.5 times. And in the end of February, for the first time in over a year, there was a small delay in repayment of VAT refund. The remaining amount was transferred, as far as I understand, after the last working day of February. So we decided to look in more detail the statistics of VAT refund. What is the situation right now? And we see I have prepared this table with the distribution by days, that for the time being, this amount of days that have gone since the moment of the application until getting the money to the account. We don't see any significant problems for the time being. Over the last 5 months, almost 80% of all refunds are paid within 60 days after the application is made. And it's important to understand here that there's a certain order, like in the end of 2022, in the beginning of 2023, they paid really overdue VAT refunds delayed from 2020, 2021, which actually damaged the statistics. But now we can see the situation is quite good. Also, another interesting fact that in 2023, we returned to pre-war level. The ratio of applications for VAT refund, which are refused during the process of tax check, to the overall amount. So 1/5 of the applications are refused. Also, we have looked at the VAT refunds by beneficiary. I would like to pass this floor to my colleague Vladimir, who will present our special team. If we look at the VAT refunds to food and agriculture, the biggest leader is, yes, the food and agricultural industry. If them put together grains, legumes, oils, fats, and seeds, that's 38.5 billion hryvnia of VAT refunds in 2023. Together with dairy products, this was almost 50% of the total amount of VAT refunds. Second place goes to metallurgy. And on the third, it's the iron ore. It's very interesting to notice here, Vladimir will show it in his own slides, that only metallurgy, which is 10% in terms of export, it gets 22% of the whole VAT refund volume. That certainly demands for a more detailed analysis, but one of the reasons is evidently that the limiting factor for VAT refund is not only the amount of export, but also the incoming taxation credit. It's more with metallurgy. Also, it's interesting to see the trend in 2023 that the amounts increase in VAT refunds awarded by court rulings. That's compared to pre-war levels. We have compared 2023, 2022 with pre-war times, and we can see that there were several significant jumps in 2023, and we can see that January and February is also quite high based on the decisions of court. So the business is quite active in terms of challenging the VAT refunds, fighting for their own rights. We have also compared the end beneficiary country, and we have seen more than 61%. It's the Ukrainian business, 39% it's foreign businesses. Out of foreign businesses is, of course, the agro traders, but also it's the production of electric and technical equipment, as well as tobacco. At this, that's all. I would like to pass the floor to Vladimir. Thank you. Yurii, we thank you. We do have some questions to you in Q&A. Maybe you can reply immediately to them. But yes, we are passing the floor to Vladimir Landa, our senior economist, who has made the review regarding our special topic of today's event, which will give us the analytical and informational framework in order to further discuss it with our speakers today. Thank you, Gleb. Thank you, colleagues. So our special topic for today is foreign trade. And for us to be on the same page, let us summarize some conclusions of international trade in the year that has already passed. So using the preliminary data, foreign trade in goods remains at 8.4 billion hryvnia. So two factors have balanced the traditional decline in January and the lower months, shorter months of February. we can see that the trade deficit decreased in $1.5 billion. That's the lowest level in 16 months. And services fell the lowest. And one of the reasons is the fall in export of IT services, which was already mentioned a little bit by my colleagues today. Today, we will concentrate on the trade of goods, where we have more barriers than about export of services. So let us see the structure of international trade in 2023. The EU remains our main trading partner. European countries account for 51% of import and 65% of Ukrainian exports. Top 10 countries, we can see 7 countries that are the EU and 6 countries who are the biggest exporters to Ukraine. Also, China and Turkey are the big trade partners with whom we have significant trade flows in both directions. Egypt, where we sent the majority of grains also among leaders to Ukraine, we can see additionally the US and India. So which countries is exported by Ukraine? Exports of grain, this was more than half of the exports. The biggest is grains. Corn was 14% from the overall export of Ukraine. Wheat, barley is one. It is important to mention that 17% is the export of the processed oilseeds, sunflower oil. That's a significant amount. Actually, there are 2 good news. First of all, the export of sunflower oil of a bigger processing, it exceeds the export of a less deep processing. Ukraine exports even the waste from the processing of sunflower oil, including cake. You can see it occupying quite a significant number. Almost $1 billion of oil cake is exported from Ukraine. So most likely Ukraine shall remain the world leader in exports of sunflower oil. The only competitor is Russian Federation, declared that it exported 4.3 million tons of these products last year. And look at that market prices. This could be the 2nd place in the world, with some 10% lower than Ukraine exported. Also on this slide, you can see that the export of products of the mining industry was some 15%, and the biggest part coincided with iron ore and road steel. We can see that the poultry, beef, and pork are well exported. Also, you can see the key importers of the main positions of the Ukrainian export. Let us come to the list of goods which were mostly imported in 2023. Mostly this is machinery, but this 29% of exports are so much divided within the top various top industries. So let us concentrate only on cars. It was more than 6% of the overall import. Mobile phones, almost 2%. That are the 2 main categories. Some categories account for some 15%. The energy sector, oil and its products, gas. And number 2 is the chemical industry, which is presented in our table with 4 goods category: plastics, pharmaceuticals, mineral fertilizers, and chemical compounds. And also we see the first information related to the external trade for 2024. We can see the data for January, but we are happy to look at them. The structure of exports remains more or less raw materials. Top 10 export goods, the maximum level of processing is sunflower oil. The rest is more or less raw materials. Irrespective of the protests of farmers, Poland remains the main exports direction. Then Spain, China, thanks to purchase of all types of grains in January. I'm talking about corn, wheat, and barley. What concerns the imported goods, oil and oil products are the key goods, as well as passenger cars. If we talk about transportation in general, its share in imports reached 15%. Also, I wanted to mention some new categories. That is drones. They are in top 10 imported goods. They were 2% of the total imports. To compare, this was only 0.7% last year. Also, we have the further growth of China. Imports from China, it's actually 97% is China. China is growing. It has reached a significant level in January. This was in 21.7% compared to 16% in previous year. And the biggest categories are the above-mentioned drones, which account for 9% of Chinese imports, which exceeds such traditional categories as phones and passenger cars, 6%. In general, top 5 countries of importers to Ukraine, it's not changed compared to 2023. On the 6th place, it's Greece, which was 14 in 2022. This was because of imports of oil. This was the biggest that Greece did in January. We can talk a little bit more about it, but I wanted to stop here to hear our experts and their view on the problem of foreign trade. Thank you. Vladimir, thank you so much. Don't underestimate your presentation. It was really great. Very clear and very clearly you show the structure of Ukrainian imports and exports. This is one of the best formats which I have seen ever, not because you're our employee, but really cool. Many thanks for your work. Many thanks for your presentation. Let us have the discussion. I will not present all the participants because we have 5 participants in discussion. Let me start immediately from Yurii Vaskov, who is the Deputy Minister for the Development of Hromadas, Territories and Infrastructure of Ukraine, and the person who is the best informed in the Ukrainian government about those problems, those infrastructural issues related to the foreign trade, which we are discussing today. Yurii, many thanks that you are joining us not for the first time to our discussions. The situation has significantly changed since the time that you have been last time visiting with us. Now the problems are different. On the other hand, we have a lot of achievements. The questions that we have for you are quite evident. Please, could you tell us, outside of the figures which have been already shown by my colleagues, what else have you been able to achieve together with this Ukrainian Black Sea corridor? Have you already exhausted the potential of growing of exports and, of course, imports by this corridor? Because today there's been a very interesting article in Ekonomiczna Prawda about the restoration of the container transportation. That's a very important question when it comes to imports, and an evident question that that this problem that everywhere in media and in life, this is the issue related to the Polish border, which decisions can be to make sure we would diversify those directions and routes that can be used by the Ukrainian producers of goods with the bigger added value, which were traditionally sending their products to the consumers of European Union by trucks. Good afternoon, colleagues. Many thanks for inviting Many thanks for the active cooperation with the active position of business. All our roads, the main ones and the alternative ones, they would not work as good if we didn't have that good cooperation. The Ukrainian Sea corridor, we had the record of 8 million tons. We're talking about, in summary, Odessa, Chernomorsk, and Pivdeny, the three ports of Big Odessa. February was a short month. Of course, this could have been more. Traditionally, this is 60-65% of agricultural products, and the other 35% is metallurgy. It's imports of fertilizers, some bulk goods, but these are not the goods of high added value if we're talking about exports, and it's not that can be transported in containers when we talk about imports. Apart from that, the Danube in February did 1.8 million tons, so we can see at a level of 50% from its maximum reached in 2023. The Danube works, and in general, some 10 million tons in February we sent by seaways, which is equal to 75% of the pre-war volume of transportation. It's working with the same pace when it comes to the sea corridor. The last week, the weather was not perfect, though there were certain delays, but we can see that this month the volume will increase and even will be maybe even more, because 1 week ago, approved by our military structures, we already launched the 24-hour work of the Ukrainian corridor, 24-hour operation, and that gives the possibility to improve its through capacity. We're not talking about this in mass media because the work is still on, and this is the logistics of the martial law. It's better to just do things instead of publicize and talk about achievements. So the corridor has some 20% of increasing its through capacity, but volume-wise. Regarding the range of goods, we believe most important right now is to reinstate container transportation and sea container terminals. We have some 5 of them. They are ready to process container shipments. Almost all are engaged in containers, actually priority. So we have negotiations with all owners of container lines. So we hope that within 2-3 weeks, we will get the first incoming with containers and then ferries. Once this is reinstated, we can talk more about it in public way. Once one line starts, then new lines will come around. Of course, it will start with some small vessels, the feeder vessels, but then in the dialogue with companies, multinational companies, some of them are looking at this possibility to reinstate services in case the feeder vessels will be safely working. My forecast that throughout 3 weeks this shall take place, and the international will resume in several months after we restart the container shipments. Also from our side, I would like to say that for this, everything is ready. We have confirmed that all state institutions are ready. All the necessary confirmations are done. I'm talking about the ports of the Big Odessa. When it comes to ferry lines, we are also working with several companies, and we hope that within 2 weeks, we will start the ferry connection, and then we will also have, I'm talking about the car ferries, and I hope that we can also do the railway ferries. All range of products except for the unsafe goods. That's just for everybody to understand. Regarding the Danube ports, we are working with container services. It's been for quite a while between Romania and Turkey, from Ismail and from Rini. It's what we have at the moment. What are the prospects? In figures, with the Ukrainian corridor, we have done already more than 31 million tons, almost more than 1,000 vessels. We almost reached the volumes of the grain corridor, but we could reach it with the significantly less period of time. When it comes to railway by land, it's working as it's been working since. Okay, in the West we have this known problem with Poland. We just finished the conversation with the minister. We were planning on the 28th of March the joint Polish-Ukrainian discussion when these issues will be considered at the highest level with certain algorithms of their resolution. We look forward to seeing 28th of March, and hopefully we will have good results of the negotiations. It will not be easy, but I'm sure it should be some good news, some improvements, but how it will look like is very difficult to say at the moment. So briefly, I guess this is more or less it. If you have any questions, I would be happy to reply. Also, I forgot to mention that the Ukrainian Danube shipbuilding company, we are ready to go up the Danube with containers. We have calculated the tariff, the logistics. At the moment, we don't yet have the volumes that are committed, but it's been, yes, quite a lengthy time compared to trucks. And we also understand, I mean, we are ready. The market knows about it. Somebody is prepared, but up the Danube, we still have not done the shipments. Thank you, Yurii. Regarding the last question, I wanted to make some certain clarification. I know that you have some limited time for this discussion because you have some more meetings to attend. When it comes to the Polish border, we understand that if a problem has appeared once, there is a higher probability, if it never appeared, that this problem may repeat. Although we have the discussion more of the macro level, but also from the point of view of business, from the point of view of those who have this activity. In your opinion, is it still worth to search for, and are there any substitutes for the truck transportation that could diversify the work, both for exporters and importers, or from the point of view of your experience and the analysis which the team has done and the ministry has done, whether it's realistic or not, and whether we should count on the agreements with the Polish guys. The people who are present, they understand better in these issues because they are the market players, they're logistics specialists, professionals, they're exporters and exporters. They are not only searching, they are forced to use the alternative ways. So our position is until the issue is resolved, we should search for alternative ways. We as the ministry, we should develop infrastructure in all alternative ways, even if now they seem that there is no demand, but we don't know how it will change during martial law. Therefore, we should be ready for every way. I mean, the market shall not wait for 2 weeks. The expected improvement, unfortunately, we have to search all options and to use them. Many thanks, Yurii, and let us start from those who the last question touched most. Let us, from the present speakers, maybe I'm mistaken, we have invited the president of the furniture producers of Ukraine, because the trade representative of Ukraine Mr. Kachka has recollected during our events as one of the industries that has suffered most because of the problems of the Polish border. What's happening with you, with your members? How really it has hit the exports and the volume of production for the Ukrainian furniture producers, and whether these alternatives that Yurii has mentioned, whether they really could help to keep the situation stable at an adequate level, or how it was with exports of iron ore until they deblocked the sea. The iron ore was produced in very limited quantities. So, Volodymyr, the floor is yours. Welcome, dear friends. Many thanks for inviting. Very interesting meeting. Very good figures. If somebody is aware of the statistics, in 2022, we ended with $1.1 billion of exports. I don't think they're fully precise. I think the situation is better than in reality, but the problems are not that much different from the rest of the economy, because our main experts, if we take in statistics the two biggest countries who are importing Ukrainian furniture, it's Poland and Germany. Poland is more as a reseller. Germany, it's both the market and the reseller. So blocking of the Polish border, that's a significant blow onto our industry. Apart from that, it's very difficult to attribute this to statistics, but talking to the owners of the companies, a lot of our counterparts, I mean mine as well, my clients from Poland, from other countries, while the blockade is on, they're trying to delay the orders. Yeah, they're saying we will place the orders, but let us wait a little bit. Now it's not that much a good time for that. So we can feel that people are not ready to risk because of this blockade. This blockade is significantly demotivating our clients. Apart from that, we had significant affection, significant damage of companies who worked for IKEA. Maybe it will not be very much correct, but in such situation, I think it's the company which is amoral, the company which is covering up with some unclear motives. We don't want that the Ukrainian employees would suffer, so we are blocking your orders. So they blocked the orders which they already had placed. The companies who spend money to produce what they need. We know IKEA, they don't pay prepayment to anyone. So all of these delays, we are becoming more and more in the category of soft furniture, and big international companies with international capital like Morgan Furniture have been affected. That's the American company, because IKEA at some point in time, they simply cut it. Their position is very much clear. We don't want you to suffer from missiles, so just die from hunger. Looks very humane. Plus container transportation today, what we have to do, we are shipping the furniture by trucks. We are bringing them to Constanta because there is a problem with containers. I can't give you all the replies, but there is a significant problem to bring empty containers into Ukraine, and we have to ship. I mean, a lot of companies are shipping trucks going to Constanta, transshipping in Constanta what's going to the United States, and that makes it more costly, the exports. So now we see an increase of action of small companies who are making bespoke furniture in a more expensive segment. They are less vulnerable to this transportation problems, and they can afford, because if we take the standard container or with standard furniture for IKEA or for some other networks, that's going to be like $20,000-$30,000. Then bespoke furniture, it can go up to $100,000 in a container. And for us, as the Ukrainian economy, that's very good type of furniture, and that gives orders for small companies, although we do have some problem with statistics because they would not always show the whole amount. We're working on that as well. I believe this question is not fully understood, that they are simply losing, they're simply afraid. Somehow they are not believing in the VAT refund. If we go back to the first question, to those clients who actually don't order because of the blockade of the border, what are the loss significant, and whether the companies of your industry are trying to go around this border, or is everybody just simply waiting? In my opinion, the losses are significant. I don't have the possibility to measure them. We don't have the statistics, but I can tell you in my company this year with Poland, we have minus 70%. Only now they're starting to place. These are the permanent clients. They are moving this to Slovakia, but we do have the competitive price, a high quality. And I know regarding other companies that they're simply moving this, and also, unfortunately, people are taking Belarus goods from our categories. The same IKEA, very often it is blocking us, but they can take from Belarus as if they took it from Poland. Let's put it this way, the situation is not easy. It's very difficult to go to exhibitions. We as association are doing this. We are organizing stands since the beginning of the war. We have five, six national stands. So that really complicates the promotion of experts. We are very much promising. We have opened up for ourselves the English market. The American market is reacting very nicely. We had really few interventions. We are just starting to improve and set up contacts. And I think also a problem is that our furniture industry has not considered England, the United States as markets. So we always are following what's near us. Poland has always been number one, although Poland has always been a reseller. We earn less on the Polish market. But now the movement starts to England and further, and we are in the segment of more expensive furniture, designer furniture. Of course, it's not a quick process, but it's here and it's sustainable. So the companies that are doing high quality, expensive furniture, less like raw materials, but really more design, more quality, they are really picking up. I'm very much deep in my questions, so I can talk about the things. We called people from various industries, both exporters and exporters, to make a review from everyone. Maybe there will be some additional questions. In order to complete, I would just like to say where we have some good and positive. These are the small producers that are making this really not very cheap bespoke furniture, designer furniture. It's starting really a massive movement. Yes, it's small companies, you can't see them that really well. It's like below 20 people, but it's picking up. And that really is making me happy. This stalling in the Ukrainian market can give us a new type of furniture companies who are trying to export in a more sure way. Many thanks. Let's come to another exporter from bespoke furniture. Let's come to millions of tons of Ukrainian grains. Kernel, Yurii Kizlevich, who is the head of the Department of Transshipment and Fleet. Yurii has already mentioned a little bit about those achievements, what we had regarding the Ukrainian Sea Corridor. We can see how the situation has really reached what you had before the war and how you see the prospects regarding the harvest, which is finally trying to grow a little bit. Good afternoon. Many thanks for the invitation. Really, that's a very actual and very much in time to discuss it. Regarding our vision related to exports, definitely we believe that for the time being, most important is the possibility to keep the work of the operation of the Ukrainian corridor, which is being very stable. That is definitely very important for the country, for business, for exports. This is the foreign currency revenues, that's payment of taxes. If we take with the example of Kernel, in 2023, we paid 4.3 billion hryvnia of taxes, and definitely this is the support of armed forces. From our experience. More than 2 billion hryvnia we have directed to the support of armed forces. I would like to thank the Ministry of Defense, the Ministry of Infrastructure for the work aimed at improving the function of this corridor. Based on that, we believe that this is the biggest powerful and with the huge through capacity for experts. That means that they're most effective. What we are doing to make sure we could support as much as possible the movement of products, of exports to world markets. We believe in infrastructure. We are investing in infrastructure. We really have reached the pre-war levels of exports. And during the full-scale invasion, we have continued to invest into the port infrastructure and terminals. We are having a certain cluster of terminals, both as grains and for the transshipment of oils. Today, we are also trying, as a leader in the industry, we are trying to give the service to the market, for the market, to give an additional effect, not only to our cargoes, not only for our production, but in general for the agrarian market, for exports. That's where we see also the possibility for the increase of exports using this corridor. Regarding the main directions, for us it's 70%. It's non-European directions. This is mostly Asian countries, Middle East, Northern Africa, and definitely part of the Western Europe. Yuriy, the question that we have is very important. It's the question related to costs. To which extent have you been able to reach that cost of transportation which was characteristic before the war? We understand that there were some other factors and other factors which are influencing, but to which extent, thanks to the work of the corridor, you have been able to minimize the losses that you had in the beginning of 22-23 when the cost of the logistics made it for the many producers unprofitable, the production of and the gathering of the new harvest. That's a very proper question. I would divide it into two components. First of all, it's internal logistics inside the country, inland, and the second component is definitely the logistics by sea. If we take the internal logistics, yes, there are certain complexities from the infrastructural point of view regarding those objects where the infrastructure was damaged. But thanks to fruitful cooperation of business and the state, we can see that we really are finding resolutions of the problem infrastructural questions. When it comes to the cost of the logistics, it is really changing in accordance with the existing channels. Today we see that it has become more of a guided process, more planned. This can be compared with the pre-war times. If we look at the sea component, definitely there is a factor of the war premium, which we need to pay to the ship owners for the freight. The freight of the fleet has become more expensive in the beginning. Also, if we look at the grain corridor of the 1st September, we can state that there was a huge loss on the payment of demurrage. This was like tens of millions of hryvnia were lost. This was our company. Today, this process is much more guided. Yes, it is more expensive than it was in the pre-war times, but we see the decrease of the insurance payments, and that gives us really good signal for the further growth and stable functioning of this market. When it comes to the prices for products, we are not influencing them that much. No, I meant what you commented already, the prices for logistics, because they significantly influence the volume of production for those who are planning to export. Thank you. Many thanks for this good news and positive tendencies. Let us come to importers. Tetiana Ostrikova, the former parliamentary, the expert of the state service. She really understands what's happening in imports. Tetiana, to which extent the situation that you have at the moment that it would be easier for Kernel, or would it be more complicated for importers, taking into account from the one hand the situation with the sea that was commented by Yurii, and the situation on the Ukrainian-Polish border that we know about? How are the importers trying to sort this out? Colleagues, good afternoon. What we would like to say in the first place, definitely the war and some external factors, they have changed the priorities of those barriers that we have today in the foreign trade. Exactly when we talk about imports, we have spoken today about the change of the logistical routes. So this broken logistics, because of the military aggression and because of the blockade of the borders, it influences the value and on the length of imports and on the procedures. Like we have several options regarding Dansk. There is the possibility to use the railway, and we can also deliver this cargo by railway, but we have to understand that the timeline for this will be for 2 months, but the cost will be slightly cheaper. We can also use trucks, but we have to understand that if we talk about Poland, this will also be quite 2-3 weeks standing on the border. Part of the cargoes are going to Constanța on Rhine with some smaller vessels, from Reni with trucks. Part of the cargoes used by other ports is coming by trucks. But again, take into account the situation on the Polish border and some problems with the Lviv customs. They're using other transportation routes, including Transcarpathian, Hungary and Slovakia. This broken logistics really affects the value and affects the price. If we compare the logistics pre-war and today, I mean, if it was 2000 and today with blocking of the border, it's 5, without blocking, it's 4, so it's already twice as much. Also, the colleagues mentioned about demurrage when the vessels are not used. We should also talk about the demurrage of containers, which are standing and waiting for the in line, and then they have to be returned. So this demurrage is also, it's like a progressive scale. It also depends on the number of overdue days. It is increased from a week to a week, but again, some 1,000 euro, it adds to the value. So therefore, if we're talking about the problems with which importers are facing before the war and during the war, then the priority and leadership has significantly changed. I mean, the Institute of Economic Research, for 7 years in a row, it does research of the biggest barriers and biggest problems that they face in their trading activity. And just to give you an example, year 2018, the main barriers was the complexity of the tax and customs legislation. This used to be problem number 1, that was exchange rate, foreign currency regulations, and only then this was the inadequate level of the transportation infrastructure, insufficient put-through capacity, then customs clearance, and then some factors like economical, the buying capacity, unforeseen state policy. Today, on the first place, we have lines on the border, overloaded western border, blocking of the Black Sea, and then only after that is insufficient customs legislation, deficit of border crossing points, and we should also talk about the counterfeit goods. It's also the factor that affects the legal trade, the integral business, and it really hinders their normal activity. So based on what we have said, the priorities have changed, and number of challenges, the external ones, some we can give some good replies. For instance, it was mentioned about the sea corridor. I also believe that today this is the road of life, and thanks to which we were able to restore the amount of transshipment and come to the pre-war level. We should, of course, mention this security, its guarantees, the security guarantees, but it's also important to mention about that optimism that was mentioned by our state. It's the letter of credit instrument to ensure war risks opened in the two state banks. The state allocated $20 million. Ukr and Ukr also they are confirmed by DZ Bank, and correspondingly the value of insurance of war risks that was before June. This was 6-7%. In August, it's 5%. It's 0.75%. That's something you can't even compare. The state has actually shown that it takes care of the business, and only when this program was started to be discussed, this mechanism, this has already influenced the first-class London insurers, their rates went down. So some part of external challenges we can manage, but some internal things like without any grounds increase of the customs tariffs or delaying in VAT refunds or some corruption or some delays in customs clearance. Last year, business to these things was complaining a lot because the function of customs office was on the first place, understanding the instability of the international support and all the fiscal challenges of the budget. Of course, customs office received certain jobs. Therefore, a lot of complaints are coming to the civil council about the artificial increase of the customs value. They used to do it before with the same contracts, with the direct contracts, with the world-known, world-famous producers. They allowed it before, but now Lviv Customs Office makes a decision to go up in cost of the customs clearance. So what is in the competence of our authorities? Let's not talk about the war. Let us give good replies to this, like in the example of insurance which I gave. I also want to give another positive example. We have this joint project of the Ukrainian company, of the end Ukrainian, that makes emphasis the Transcarpathian oblasts. They have the possibility to Hungary and to Slovakia, and that could make it. We have certain challenges here. What is actually preventing the development? This could be more expensive than sea, and there are certain other minuses, but that's regularity, it's stability. It's what the Ministry of Infrastructure said, that we have to develop different ways. One was blocked, we moved to another one. So insurance by sea is here, but insurance by railway is not, which narrows down the number of international companies who are ready to give their wagons to Ukraine. Again, these are war risks that really increases the tariffs for such services. Number two, access to European companies, these locomotives, simplification of these bureaucratic checks, customs clearance. If that would be regulated, that would also increase the put-through capacity through the western borders. Because when we're talking about the ports, we're talking about mostly about the Polish side, but we also have the possibility to develop it in the Transcarpathian Oblast. And it seems like they're not receiving the proper governmental support. Many thanks, Tetiana, for the comments about these alternative ways. In reality, very important what you said about the logistics increase in containers, because that really affects the real buying capacity of Ukrainians, because that means the increase of prices, unproductive increase of prices, because this money goes nowhere, because we are using the money for the products that we others simply can't buy. Yurii what mentioned about the reinstatement of the container lines for imports. How do you think whether this problem will be resolved soon and whether you can really decrease the cost of the transportation to Ukraine? If we're talking by railway, and if we're talking as an example of Gdansk, the Gdansk infrastructure was not ready to such overload. It's not that they don't want, they can't do it to process that much of cargo. That's why the importers are inventing and dividing into various European ports. As I said, from Constanza, then by cars, then by to Hamburg, and then trucks or ports in the Baltic countries. We're using everything that we can because no single port can provide the quick processing of all of these cargoes. Should the containers come back to the ports of the big Odessa, what happens then? Of course, we need to calculate. These mechanisms will be used, how much it will cost finally, because it all is part of the customs value based on the customs code. It's all very simple. If this mechanism starts working, or we have a very specific project, what will be with demurrage, what will be with insurance, what will be the value of logistics, then we will calculate. Thank you, Tetiana. And our second participant that comes about import, and then we will have also our international expert who will comment on the issue of insurance of war risks and logistics. But just to close the issue related to import, Artem, who is the founder of the consulting group A95, known for their expertise in the market of fuel. And we have seen that the imports of fuel that was in the summer of 2022, this was a critical element of the Ukrainian imports. So Artem, that diversification that we have seen over the last few years, whether it has brought the Ukrainian export to the point, imports of the fuel, that no Polish will create problems for us, and the expansion of imports by sea that Yurii has mentioned, whether it can really decrease the value of logistics for the Ukrainian importers and the value of the costs of the fuel for Ukrainian consumers. Good evening to all of these questions. I will give you the reply. Let us come immediately to the sea. That's a quite special question because unlike the rest of the cargoes, oil products, they are exploding and they are very bright when they are in flames. So I'm very much in respect for these traders. When they have the margin of 20 kopecks per liter, they are unloading it on the drones, and we understand why this channel is not increasing its influence. But yes, we have, besides Moldova, Romania, their terminals are engaged as most for the supplies to the Ukrainian market. What concerns the prices for fuel, whole Europe and Ukraine in general, this is the organism we, with our demand, we are influencing the prices in the neighboring countries. Their situation influences us, and it goes in circles. So the price will always be competitive. The competition is such that for 10 kopecks in the wholesale market, people are just fighting. This is not a drugstore in which one drug can cost 200, in the other, the same drug, 300. Here, people are fighting for kopecks. I have prepared several slides. I will try to share. You can see my screen, right? Just for you to understand how the oil market is, oil market consumption is going on we can see that consumption actually fell by 20% from 21 to 23. But again, it fell, but it has remained quite significant in any case. We are still consuming on average, based on the results of 2023, 750,000 tons of fuel per month. This is actually more than in the pre-war 2017. So it's a huge amount, which is creating a huge load on logistical system of Ukraine and on its roads. Close to us is January and February 2024. We also see a 20% decline. In any case, January and February, these are the dead month, but this year, even a bigger drop we have seen versus the previous seasons, previous years. First of all, that's moving holidays to December, and secondly, that's the becoming more active the conscription measures in Ukraine. People are less moving between cities, they're less using their transport, they're consuming less fuel. And we understand the buying capacity of the population, unfortunately, is not improving. Although the statistics that you have made public about the imports of passenger cars and mobile phones, that is amazing. What it comes to imports, okay, when it comes to imports, in January and February, we have 83% of demand. That's a lot, as we understand. Therefore, imports is the cornerstone. Is it on the slide? Who will pass on the next slide? Let me do it in the following way, a little bit differently. It is working from the second time. I am as a moderator. I apologize. Okay, we can do it like this. We can see it. You can see us. Yeah, that's enough. What we see regarding the year 23-24 on this particular slide. This applies through various borders of Ukraine. Poland by cars and by railway. First is by Poland by trucks. Next is Poland by railway, the blue one. Then comes the Polish railway in orange, and then Slovakia, Hungary, and Romania. So all problems of the market that we have today, they are more or less connected with imports. And the biggest problem is logistics. Our blockade, you can see how the supplies of fuel products has dropped in November, December, and January, and it's actually in February, it's also on the lowest level. You can see all the fuel products, including diesel, gasoline, liquefied gas. If on average through the Polish border before the blockade, we had 70,000 tons per month, now it's like 30 in the best case scenario. And we can see that in December, in February, it's in November, the biggest cargoes came to the Romanian border, but this is not forwarding from Poland, it's changing the source of procurement. This is the sea that we talked about from the beginning. But again, what comes to liquefied gas and some transactions with Polish traders, yeah, different cargoes are forced to go around via Slovakia, thousands of kilometers extra, and through Hungary, mostly actually from Hungary. And railway actually worked really well. These are the traders who could redirect themselves. But here we're talking not only about the volumes, but also about its mobility. Just for the understanding, the fuel that crosses the border in the gasoline car, within 4 or 5 days from the border, it can already fuel the consumers. But if it has gone through in the railway system, its way to fueling station can be up to several weeks. Therefore, maybe you remember in November and in December, there was the crisis with the liquefied gas because the traders in that logistical configuration and with that fleet of the gas transporters that are available in Ukraine, not everybody could withstand this logistical stretch. And therefore, we had these record prices on fueling stations. Somewhere the gas would actually disappear. Not everybody was able to manage their flows. But again, today, the traders have adapted to date, and in principle, we have some stable supplies, and even this new blockade was not a problem for the liquefied gas. To make a small resume, what comes to imports and logistics, we can say that such a blockade and the change of the logistical things they have significantly influenced the market functioning. And we can say we should thank to these traders who are moving, who are permanently modernizing, and they're improving their logistical corridors and ways. They are distributing their risks in various baskets, and they have some backup options. I think this is the effect from 2022, when within 4 months, the supply of fuel, 80% from the big market, over 4 or 5 months, were turned around 180 degrees. We were trying to find out from our overseas colleagues. Nobody has had any precedents of that kind in foreign countries. And basically, we have another problem today on the Ukrainian market. It has become more acute in February, in 2024. That's the problem of saturation of the Russian fuel through Europe, as if European. It's pressing on us from all sides. The Russian fuel, there is not that much to show anymore. From south, this is diesel. From Poland, from Baltic countries, it's liquefied gas. They're cheaper, they're more flexible, and they're using this potential exactly to get the incompetitive advantage. In October 2023, with the changes in the customs code, we could make a significant blow to these supplies. But our neighbors who are blocking the border, they came up with some new schemes, and in January we are seeing the recovery of the supplies of the liquefied gas of this doubtful origin. I mean, it's not written that it's a Russian gas, but it's coming from terminals where the Russian gas is coming, and the price is not as high as the European. And of course, we don't count that the Polish are trying to be nice. In March, the Customs Service implemented new measures to fight that. It's very difficult to evaluate their effectiveness, but the first results are here. The biggest suppliers of this doubtful resource have shortened and sometimes taken away their proposals from the market. And I think that they will search for new gaps in the Ukrainian legislation. I'm also a part of the working group at Minenergo and the Security Council. We will be searching for ways how to fight this. This process will last. That's all about the market of fuels. Colleagues, our last performance. Many thanks to colleagues from Berlin Economics who have helped us to engage Hans Janus. He is the expert for financial insurance in Eastern Europe and Central Asia, and he used to be the president of the International Union of Insurance of the loans of the Bern Union. Dear Mr. Hans, please could you comment what it comes to war insurance, the progress that we see? It's already significant. Do you see any possibility in decreasing further insurance for the foreign trade of Ukraine based on your experience? Please, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. My name is Hans Janus, as you already mentioned. I'm a lawyer and business consultant located in Hamburg, and I'm happy to work together with Gary and the team of German Economic Team Ukraine. And in the recent weeks, we focused very much on the so-called Ukrainian corridor and the influence on insurance premium. So since many of the colleagues which previously have spoken mentioned already points which I was prepared to talk about, I can be relatively short. So I think important as a starting point for the considerations is that the maritime corridor, the Ukrainian corridor, is really a great success of the military forces of Ukraine, that it has been able to push back the Russian Black Sea fleet far into the east of the Black Sea. And that has made the new corridor relatively safe, the corridor through the territorial waters of Ukraine, Romania, Bulgaria, and Turkey. But in my view, this is really not the only reason why the new corridor is so safe and stable. There is another important point, and that is the solving the insurance question. The insurance premiums, and that has been mentioned several times already, have been extremely high in the past. And since October, November, a significant change has taken place. The so-called Unity Facility has been created. And the Unity Facility is really a wonderful thing. This is a highly innovative insurance concept. It is a public-private partnership in an excellent way, where Ukrainian official institutions take part, but also the private insurance business, mainly in the United Kingdom. From the Ukrainian side, and Tetiana mentioned that already, Ukrgaz and Ukrexim Bank are involved. Both banks have opened letters of credit with an amount of $10 million. And these letters of credit have been secured, have been insured by the Ukrainian Export Credit Agency. So we have here the Ukrainian part of the whole system, and that is a strong guarantee with an overall amount of $20 million. These letters of credit have been confirmed by the German bank DZ Bank, and they are in favor of a pool of London-based insurance companies, in fact, 14 different insurers. They are insurers acting under the roof of the Lloyd's insurance market in London. The whole system has been constructed by Marsh and McLennan, a large international insurance broking and reinsurance broking company. And what are these 14 British insurers now offering? They are offering insurance for ships, for the passage of ships through the Black Sea. There is one important element that is the so-called hull and machinery insurance. That is the insurance of the body of the ship and the technical equipment of the ship. And the other insurance product is P&I, protection and indemnity. That is insuring a ship against possible claims for indemnity. So both risks are covered with an amount of up to 50 million US dollars, with the participation of the Ukrainian banks with the first 20 million. So you have the first loss, so to say, with the Ukrainian banks. And on top, there is an excess of loss insurance cover of 50 million provided by the British insurers. So this is a strong insurance package which is in place. And this made it possible, and you, Mr. Chairman, you mentioned the development of the insurance premium, that made it possible that the insurance premium came down from much above 3% of the covered volume down to 0.7 or 0.75%. So it made the exports much cheaper than in the time before this unity facility was established. There is a very recent change, which is, I assume, known to you, that on the 1st of March, the facility has been broadened to cover not only foodstuff exports, but all kinds of exports, and also container shipping. So that is another, or let me say, a second important step, and this will now be implemented. So the figure mentioned that approximately 1,000 ships have already been exporting Ukrainian goods since October, November last year is really a fantastic figure. And I think that this insurance package is an important element to make these exports possible. So I'm very brief with my remarks because the time is already very far advanced. The last sentence perhaps is that insurance concepts for investments on the land within Ukraine, that is a much more complicated case on which the National Bank and the Ministry of Economics of Ukraine are working, and German economic team also tries to support these developments a little bit. So that's all from my side. Thank you very much for giving me the floor.
This was a very important component, very important information. Thank you so much for that. I am sure that the professional market players would know how the insurance situation is developing, but for the wider circle of people who are interested in understanding what is happening with the Ukrainian foreign trade and how it influences the economy, your input has been very valuable. Thank you for that. We have gone over time almost as usual. So the questions which we have had in Q&A, they were more of a technical manner. We will try to reply to them in our further materials. I would like to thank everybody who has participated in discussion. We have had a lot of business representatives, international experts, the representatives of the government. Many thanks to colleagues at CES for their presentations. And of course, to our partners from the German economic team, I'd like to wish everybody a quiet evening and quiet night. And we will see us during our next events, which we will have already next week. Many thanks and all the best to everybody.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. All the best. Bye-bye.